is a week of great excitement and celebration for the interactive entertainment industry, and that's especially true for those of us who have been involved in this business now for over a decade. But like any relatively new and growing industry, we do face some challenges. That's what I'd like to talk about this morning. Incidentally, last week the Wall Street Journal said that some people in this industry think that I'm either a visionary or an idiot. I'm not really sure who these people are or which side of the fence they're on, but just to avoid any confusion, I decided this morning to wear my visionary hat. I suspect that there may be some in the audience who think that the challenges that our industry faces are distinctly Nintendo's. After all, isn't Nintendo the company that is still pouring significant resources and creativity into 16-bit video games? When the industry seems intent on moving onward, we have no plans to abandon this huge installed base as long as we can continue to make entertaining games. And isn't Nintendo the company launching Virtual Boy, an entirely new type of video game? One where the interface is a pair of goggles instead of a TV screen where the graphics are truly 3D, but still monochromatic. Well, that's us. We're confident that game players are going to love not only this new entertainment experience offered by Virtual Boy, but that they'll especially like the suggested retail price of $179.95 for this 32-bit experience with a game packed in. Game players always recognize quality, and they enthusiastically flock to it. Witness the 7.5 million Donkey Kong Country cartridges that we have sold worldwide since last November. Likewise, once we give consumers a Donkey Kong Country, they naturally expect that everything else out there on store shelves and everything to come will be just as good, if not better, in terms of entertainment value. And it's this never-ending quest for better games that's really behind our decision to move the introduction of Nintendo Ultra 64 in North America and Europe to next April. Once we introduce Donkey Kong Country, I'm afraid we find the gold standard for 16-bit games, and at the same time, we necessarily set a much higher quality standard for our 64-bit platform. I can tell you that Silicon Graphics and Nintendo have created an extraordinarily powerful new hardware platform in Nintendo Ultra 64, one capable of presenting seamless real-time 3D graphics. The SGI Nintendo engineering team has done its job. The Nintendo Ultra 64 chipset, the hardware, is essentially completed. But over the past 2 years, SGI's graphics technology has also enabled Nintendo to raise the entertainment bar on 16-bit gameplay. Our new Killer Instinct and Donkey Kong Country 2 games, the Super NES, which are debuting here at E3, and which will reach game players later this summer and fall, simply raise that quality bar even higher, beyond Donkey Kong Country, and certainly in my mind, to a level equal to any of the 32-bit software being exhibited here at E3. Now, what this means is that the quality of video games now under development for Nintendo Ultra 64 simply must be better, much better, not just a little bit, but a lot. And the challenge that I want to address this morning affects every person whose livelihood is dependent upon the creation, manufacturing, marketing, and distribution of interactive entertainment. And as I introduce this challenge, I must admit that at first glance it appears rather benign. This innocent-looking thing is known as the video game copier, a machine to make counterfeit software. And the one displayed here is marketed under the name Super Wildcard. And that name is certainly appropriate because into the future of interactive entertainment, that's precisely what it represents. The Super Wildcard and products like it immediately expand the already daunting problem for software counterfeiting into the borderless reaches of cyberspace. And there, the prospects for protecting our businesses, for protecting our employees, for protecting the products of our imagination are downright chilling. In the last fully reported fiscal year, Nintendo realized $4.7 billion, all attributable to sales of home video game products. And our nearest competitor, Sega, had revenues of $3.4 billion, of which $2.9 billion were directly attributable to home video game sales. Now, I think it's fair to say that along with a number of independent third-party publishers, Nintendo and Sega pretty much define the current video game industry. But this assessment ignores a third major player, the counterfeiter. Worldwide revenue losses to Nintendo and its third-party publishers last year alone from all pirated activity came to approximately $2.5 billion, and I suspect that Sega had comparable losses. So while it's common to look at worldwide market shares like this, Nintendo and Sega products are high, in fact, there is a much more accurate way to represent the current state of affairs. In the real world, there is a third major player, the counterfeiter. And his piece of the action is the most profitable. The Software Publishers Association recently compiled a list of nations with the most egregious counterfeit markets. Here are the 4 worst offenders. Of all of the software currently in existence in India, 87% is counterfeit. Thailand, the percentage exceeds 90%. The former Soviet Union, 95%. And in the People's Republic of China, virtually every software program in a nation of over 1 billion people was stolen from its rightful owner. In fact, in China, counterfeiting has actually become a growth industry. It seems to me that all governments need to recognize that there is no safe haven, and there should be no safe haven for pirates, whether they board ships as in the old days or manufacture fake products in violation of somebody else's property rights. Make no mistake about it, cyberspace is different. This is a world where every user is a potential illegal distributor, and that distributor is extremely difficult to detect or even identify. What's more, if he's suspected, escape is quite simple. Unlike the typical video game counterfeiter working with millions of cartridges over tens of square feet of manufacturing space, the cyberspace pirate can destroy material evidence in the matter of a few keystrokes. For those who believe that cyberspace holds the greatest promise for individual writers, artists, or even business people, let me suggest that in the near term, those who may benefit most are the lawyers and the crooks. And as a lawyer by training, yes, I do distinguish between the two. Mary Beth Peters, the Registrar of Copyrights, recently called the Internet the biggest copying machine in the world. And author William Gibson, who coined the term cyberspace in the early 1980s, also established the now familiar dramatic conflict between so-called heroes in the form of computer hackers against villains cast as evil multinationals. Unfortunately, some in the media have accepted this nonsense. They too sometimes celebrate the hacker hero. And this in turn has acted to help authenticate the absurd rationalization, and I quote, "Information wants to be free." This, of course, has all of the inherent logic of the auto thief who explains to the police that the minivan in your garage just wanted to be free. When counterfeiters use cyberspace to freely distribute somebody else's software, the future truly is undermined. Because when worthy content is robbed of its commercial value, the people who create it find something else to do for a living, and the content just never exists. So I urge each of you to join Nintendo and Sega and the other companies in this industry who are out there right now fighting international counterfeit. All of us here at E3, I think, need to speak out against this very serious problem. We need to educate everyone who is entertained by our products about the need for protection of intellectual property. And if we do this, we're going to eventually win this counterfeiting battle, not only for our employees and for our shareholders, but for the sake of every person around the world who enjoys interactive entertainment. Thank you very much.